This is a production of the AJ Podcast Network.
Pushing and pulling, I want you, but you won't leave. I hate you, I love you, you love me, yeah, you gotta be. If I'm your cage, leave. But if you stay with me, eventually we'll find happy.
Should I go left, should I go right? What I'm doing, investing in your life. Time wasted, my body loves it, my mind hates it. Fights in public and we can't erase it. Everybody saw, should've seen their faces. Face it, it's only love when we naked, that's basic. I'm trying to fly like a...
Good afternoon, people. You reached another episode of the Passage Home podcast starring the amazing Dr. Stanley Russian. And listen, listeners, YouTube will be our main hub for the podcast. It's going to have our old podcast, our new podcast, so it's easy just to go on YouTube. But if you want to go ahead and download the podcast, you can go on Podbean, Apple, iHeart Radio, CastBox, Google Podcasts, and don't forget to ask Alexa to play the Passage Home podcast for you. And while I'm at it, I want to let y'all know that I got another podcast too. It's called I Can Relate to That Podcast, starring my boy, AJ, where we talk about things that we all can relate to one way or another. You can also listen to that podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, CastBox, iHeart Radio, Podbean, Stitcher. Oh, and you can also ask Alexa to go ahead and play that podcast for you. Now, for those that want to reach us, go ahead and reach us at passagehomepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's passagehomepodcast@gmail.com. If you're interested in sponsoring your business, you want us to talk about your business or your entity, go ahead and hit us up. passagehomepodcast@gmail.com as well. All right. And y'all guys have a great day. And we're going to go ahead and bring on the Dr. Stanley Russian.
Yes, sir. Give thanks.
Always.
Yes, sir.
How you doing today?
I'm amazing. By the grace of God, I'm amazing, and I want to share the good tidings with everybody that's out there of what God is doing in this day and time to bring us back together all over the world. And as we watch this pendulum swing back the other way of us being victorious throughout the world.
Right.
And I just want to share with you, because the struggle for us is over. As bad as it looks, we're not struggling anymore. We're about to be conquerors, and we're about to feast at this table that the Lord has prepared for us in the midst of our enemies. And so,
wow.
And I don't want y'all to, you can't miss it. Let's enjoy it. Let's all enjoy it together. It's amazing. I want to, along with introducing our passage back home, which we're all getting to, I want to mention, to introduce today the one of the most profound brothers that has graced the stage, and with humility, the brother Wesley Kabila, which we call CAP Kabila. And we're going to be doing a lot of explanation of what's going on, but I want to introduce Cap, and first by asking him for his bio. But what the heck does the word Cap mean? And so that's what you need to know first. And as we engage in this amazing moment to bless everybody out there.
Dr. Stanley, it's good to be with you. And thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. What does the word CAP mean?
Yes, CAP. CAP was I guess it's kind of a nickname given to me by people because of the organization that I reformed. Stands for the Congress of African People, CAP. And the Congress of African People was originally formed in 1970. It was headed by Imamu Amiri Baraka, who was one of our foremost poet laureates. Of course, he's transitioned now, but he led this organization since 1970 through 1974, 75, I believe it was. And at that time, he became a Marxist, and so the organization transitioned. When I came on Facebook around 2010, 2011, I started running into a lot of people who were in the Congress of African People, and many of them were talking about the fact that the mission that we had started in the Congress of African People back in the 70s, that we didn't get a chance to finish our mission. And so I thought I would restart up this formation. We tried to start it as an organization, but eventually I just transitioned it into a network and a community that we formed on Facebook. We have about 50 to 60 rooms on Facebook, groups that we connect with people through, and we connect with about 21,000 people all around the world on all the 7 continents. Wherever Black people are, that's where we connect, and we form community and work to engage in various projects.
Right. Well, so we haven't even scratched the surface yet. Tell us a little bit. I'm springing this on you, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Seed Lady and who she is and what her relationship is to the Congress of African People.
Very good. If I could, I'd like to just start in the beginning in terms of how I got involved in the movement. Actually,
right.
at the age of 15, I attended the March on Washington in D.C. Went down there with a couple of my friends, my neighborhood where I lived in New Jersey at the time. The marches there, especially the speeches given by John Lewis at that time, who was really kind of like closer to our age. And so we really kind of related to him more so than Martin Luther King. But of course, after the march, Martin King got all of the notoriety. But many of us were looking for marching orders from people like John Lewis in terms of how young people could become engaged in the movement. So that was kind of like my introduction and initiation into politics and community organizing. I went on to also, just like to mention, I graduated high school. My last year of high school, I went to a Black boarding school in North Carolina, Laurinburg Institute. And from there, I went on to Tennessee State University in Nashville, studied there for a year. I wasn't really satisfied with the level of instruction there, so I decided to come out to California. And this is where I really got involved in the movement shortly after attending Los Angeles City College in 1966, beginning of 1966. Soon after that, I was elected vice chair for the Black Student Union at City College. And we invited Dr. Maulana Karenga to come and lecture there. And it was at that time that I just had almost like a religious conversion to the movement based on the lecture that he gave. I remember he spoke on the 7 criteria for culture: history, social organization, economic organization, political organization, creative production, and ethos. And and in that lecture, he just really kind of like brought together a lot of the things that I have been dealing with in my studies. And so I decided to join this organization, in which I became a member of the youth movement. Actually, we formed the youth movement, the Simba Wachanga, which stands for Young Lions. Young Lions is Simba Wachanga was a movement that was a part of the Mau Maus in Kenya as they fought for liberation from the British there. And we took the name from that youth movement. And then shortly thereafter, I was asked to be student affairs chair for the organization, and actually became an organizer for Kwanzaa by bringing Kwanzaa into the school systems here in the Los Angeles area as well as around the state.
What year was that?
It was 1967.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, and so, like I said, after becoming student affairs chair, we brought Kwanzaa into the school systems here in the city and the state. And also, I was a member of the Black Congress, which was formed here in Los Angeles, which was comprised of 60 community organizations, at least 60 organizations here in the Los Angeles area, where we met on a regular basis to develop policy and programs that affected the Black community after the Wesley vote in 1965, of course. I was also a organizer during the Black Power Conference in 1968, which was held in Philadelphia. One of the resolutions that came out of the Black Power Conference that year was to choose a city with a majority Black population, at least around 75% Black population, to go and organize politically, because at that time, even though we had large populations of Blacks in urban areas, we didn't have the representation in city politics. And so Newark, New Jersey was chosen, and that's how I met Imam Muhammad Baraka. I actually left the conference, the Black Power Conference in Philly, and went directly to Newark, where we began to organize for the Committee for Unified Newark. It's called C-Fund, which Baraka headed for a number of years. And this was the organization that eventually was responsible for electing the first Black mayor of a major city in the country in Newark in 1970. And so
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead, please. Yes.
What was going through your mind? Because we're looking back through the dispensations of your career and your movements, and we see the fruit today, which we'll get to. But at that moment, just for the audience, what was going through your mind?
Well, as a youngster and as a young revolutionary, we were fighting for political, economic power, and we sought to gain, of course, access to resources that we needed as a community of people. We believed as Black cultural nationalists that we African Americans made up a cultural community based upon our common needs, our common aspirations, and our common vision of a world in which we controlled our own destiny, and in which we also controlled those industries and institutions within our community, which I'll go into in a few minutes. But these were the things that we had in mind as young people at that time. Many of us were in our late teens or early 20s. I started out in my early teens, 19 years old. So these were the thoughts that we had in our mind at that time.
Okay, revolutionary.
Right. So just a few more things, because I think it's important, especially for young people today, to reference those things that form the basis of our development. And so not only were we a part of the Black Power Conference and the formation of the Committee for Unified Newark, as I mentioned, we were participants in organizing efforts for the Congress of African People. In the early 70s, I went on to get a associate degree in political science and African American studies from Southwest College. I went on to get a bachelor's at University of Southern California in public administration and graduated cum laude. And then I went on from there to become a doctoral candidate at UCLA, where I studied political science with a specialization in Southern African politics and culture. Around 1979, we reformed the US organization after Dr. Karenga came out of prison, served as vice chair for the organization from 1979 to 1985, after which we attended the Cal Reader Institute of Pan-African Studies every summer. And also I was a charter member of the 1984, we formed here in Los Angeles, the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. This was a very important organization because it went into the study of African the origins of African spirituality in ancient Kemet, which we know as Egypt. And this organization was responsible in large part spreading the study. We encouraged study groups around the country and around the world. And so now the fact that so many people are studying Ma'at, which is the spiritual system of ancient Kemet, the ASCAC organization was largely responsible for that. So just coming up to date, when I formed the Congress of African People around 2011, I asked different roles and responsibilities, but the most significant role was when I asked a sister who I had just met short time earlier, Anna Marie Carter, who is known as the Seed Lady of Watts. And so I asked her, and let me just say, the reason she was called the Seed Lady is because over a 45-year period, she saved over 3 billion seeds, organic heirloom seeds over that period of time. And not only that, she's a scientist, she's a 5-star chef, and so she had all of these skills. So I asked her and one of the things that we thought was very important at that time was to build industry. And of course, the food industry was looked at as being primary. The former president of Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara, made the point, one of his main quotes is that a free people cannot really be liberated till and unless they own the ability to grow their own food and not remain dependent on anyone else for their food. So we set upon a course early on in 2011, 2012 to actually put in place institutions and those processes that would be necessary for us to have control of our own food production. And we have reached that point now. We have a global trade platform. We have developed relationships mostly with African farmers throughout the continent of Africa. We also have relationships with Native Americans from Canada all the way down to Brazil. We have developed relationships, farmers and distributors throughout the Caribbean, as well as the Pacific Islands, which is made up of 25,000 islands in the Pacific Ocean. And that relationship was developed through our family in Fiji. And so we're at a point now where we can have some degree of control over our own food production. We have air cargo service, so we can go into those places, remote farms. If we have to helicopter food out because the roads are bad, we can do that. And we have distribution points all over the world where we can deliver food, do home delivery, and a number of other things that we have put in place such that we have a level of and degree of control over our food production. One of the things that really inspired me to become fully engaged in this movement was I had done a paper on Marcus Garvey, and I ran across a quote that he did, and he said that we should control every industry that affects our daily lives' destiny. And that had a profound effect on me because what it told me is that we needed to have control of our own productive process. I'm sorry, go ahead. You were going to ask a question?
No, I say give thanks. Well, what's going through my mind, I'm sure it's going through Bax's mind, is that
sure is.
You sound like a clone of Malcolm X, in the tone of your voice and the rhythm of what you're talking about. It's all revolutionary, and it all comes out of what you just said. It all comes out of the spirit of Marcus Garvey. So
yes,
you're right on time. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, that's a real honor for you to say that. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Give thanks.
Yes, thanks. Yes, sir.
So we're coming up on our closing out. We have to have you back. We appreciate you. We're not closing out yet. We'll get a couple more jabs in because, like I say, you have a worldwide audience. They know that you're on point. You started out on point. now we are producing the fruit worldwide from the seeds that were planted all the way back from Marcus Garvey, that we held protocol and we held it down, you know, all throughout Kwanzaa, all across the United States. The fact that you were vice chair of the US organization that brought us Kwanzaa, that brought us Swahili, and it affected my life. My second son, 40 years ago, his name was Kuji Jagalia. You know,
is that right?
His first name was Kuji. His middle name was Jagalia. And so, and back when he was going to school, he used to get roasted all the time because kids are harsh. They'll call him Kojo after the dog and in the movies and stuff, and he would come home crying and stuff. And so my wife and I played a trick on him once, because when LL Cool J came out, he all of a sudden he became popular and stuff.
All right.
So LL first song, he talked about his name and stuff.
Yeah.
And so he shot to stardom. And so he came home one day and said, "Hey, we understand you were suffering and everything, so we've changed your name to Billy." And he started crying. He started crying. No, please don't. You know.
Yes,
and
sir.
So that was in he was born in 1976.
Okay.
So the fruit that you planted has I grew up on eating that fruit. I mean, I can remember times in Kwanzaa in Chicago where we went to the Karamo and we had 5,000 people in the middle of winter at 20 degrees below zero. And stuff. That's how profound it was. And we had all the first fruit. We rented the Armory and stuff and entertained all sides of Chicago in the night with foods from all over Africa and with fruits that everybody took on bags of fruit from celebrating the first fruits of Kwanzaa. And so
that's right.
We was serious. That's serious. You know.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
You know.
That's great to hear. And you know, Kwanzaa I think it at this point in time in our history, I think we really have to weaponize Kwanzaa. And I hate to use that term in relationship to Kwanzaa, but exactly. I think it's very important that we use it as a tool to mobilize and organize our people around our cultural, our history, and also in terms of our aspirations to become a global African community. And Kwanzaa serves that purpose to unite us around the globe. You know, we started Kwanzaa in 1966 with 50 people in a one-bedroom apartment. And today, over 60 million people celebrate Kwanzaa on every continent around the world. So it becomes a very important tool for us to use in terms of mobilizing and organizing our people around not only our culture and our heritage, but also in terms of what our goals and objectives should be as a global community of people.
We're there. Kwanzaa.com for forever. And so and we will certify. Everybody is trying to imitate what Kwanzaa, because Kwanzaa has principles and laws. And the beautiful thing about you, from day one, you have followed principles and laws that we created for ourselves. And,
that's right.
And purpose. And the whole world is trying to get in on where we are, because we're the salt of the earth. We're the ones that add the flavor to everything that they're trying to do and stuff.
Right.
Exactly. And what you just said is that we are the vanguard. You know, what the Panthers said a long time ago, most people don't realize, they said power to the people and death to the fascist pigs. They just not
Yes.
finding out what that means. And
Right.
it's too late because the fascists are trying to take over, and then we're finding out that it was the power of the black vote that actually changed things. And Malcolm
That's right.
said was the ballot or the bullet, and so on and
Right.
so forth. They went for the bullet, we went for the ballot, we won, and stuff.
We won.
And so we've been knowing the where to go and where to take this all the time. It's just that now is the time,
Right.
for
Right.
all of that. And so we're at a hard break. We will bring you back, brother. We just scratching the surface. We're going on it and upward. I got a phone call coming up with the president, the vice president of Equatorial Guinea, the Black Kuwait of Africa and stuff.
Yes, sir.
And God bless you. Thank you so much for coming. Take it back.
Yes,
Yeah.
Cap. Yes, Cap. Definitely marvelous,
sir.
brother. Once again, Dr. Stanley, you have done it again. Listen, you never failed to amaze me. Your connection and your network is, oh my gosh, is platinum. I just love being in conjunction with a brother like you. You are a mentor to me. Once again, this was the Passage Home podcast starring the Dr. Stanley Russian. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the show for the night. Go ahead and share, like, subscribe. We need that. We need our followers. We're going to blow this thing up. We're going to get our people home, or at least give us some knowledge of home and where we truly come from and who we truly are. Y'all have a great night, great evening. Happy New Year's.
Thank you.
Only took me a day, gave a cookie away, hands all in your jaw, crumbs all on my face. Is it the love or the lust? We got a lot to discuss. We gon' fight or unite. What's stopping the trust? I've been bright all my life. I could see that we rush. Same thing happened to them. It's happened to us. We argue all night, then you backing it up. That's the story of our life. First we fight, then we fuck. You don't need me, I don't need you. When you say that, I don't believe you. You still want me. Bring that cookie here, I'm still hungry. We need counseling, but I'd rather build a bridge than a mountain. And if we can't get it right, then I'm bouncing.
Pushing and pulling, I want you, but you wanna leave. I hate you, I love you.
This is a production of the AJ Podcast Network.